Yes, guys, what's happening? And happy new year to all of you. Hope you enjoyed yourselves last night. Welcome to the live stream for the Chelsea versus Liverpool game on Sunday. And I'm delighted to be joined by journalist Jamie Wilkinson to look ahead to the game, discuss all the main talking points. We'll obviously dissect that Lukaku interview. No Jurgen Klopp on the touchline for Liverpool, ruled out with COVID if you missed that earlier this afternoon. Jamie, welcome to the channel. Thanks so much for joining me, mate. Hope you're well. This obviously a big game, but it's kind of been, unfortunately, it's been put in the, put in the shadows by Romelu Lukaku's interview that he did with Sky Italia, saying that he was unhappy with the situation at Chelsea. Tuchel playing a different system. He wants to be back at Inter Milan. It's not gone down well with the Chelsea fan base. I've seen, obviously, Didier Drogba said similar things 3 years into his career at Chelsea, wanting to go back to Marseille. Eden Hazard constantly flirted with it during his Chelsea career. But the difference was these guys probably had a little bit more credit in the bank. Not that they made it any better, but they'd obviously come and done a lot for the club, won trophies. Lukaku been here for 6 months, obviously injured for a large period as well. Obviously had COVID also. What did you make of his comments when the first part of that interview broke on Thursday night and then obviously the second part come out on Friday, which is arguably even worse?
Well, naturally, surprise, disappointment. I think as bad as what he said was from a Chelsea perspective, the timing of it really amplified the fan fury. We've had a pretty miserable month as it is, and without having a player that he's just come back from injury, scored 2 games in a row, won a penalty at Villa away as well. This is someone that we're kind of relying on to drag us out of this difficult moment. And from what he says, he's not too delighted to be here. So yeah, you can understand why Chelsea fans who historically have very high standards for our players is professionalism, such as some of the great players that we've had that have been so unbelievably professional off the pitch. Lampard, Terry, 2 spring to mind, Petr another, Drogba later in his career perhaps. But yeah, just disappointment and just fury.
I mean, I guess it was too much to ask for December to end smoothly for us, considering it's been a difficult month with not picking up the best results on the pitch, ravaged with injuries. Obviously, confirmed that Chilwell had to have surgery on his ACL, and then we've got Reece James out for 6 to 8 weeks. Doesn't require surgery. That's another long-term blow, and it completely changes the January market, which was looking like it was going to be pretty quiet. It's now going to be pretty busy, and hopefully the board will back Tuchel and give him what he needs. We've obviously seen the Chelsea board in the past not give managers what they want, but hopefully that'll be different this time. But yeah, I mean, with Lukaku, I guess the timing's really poor as well. I mean, I've seen David Ornstein at The Athletic reporting that the club was slightly taken aback by it. They weren't aware of the interview. Do you think it makes it slightly worse that he's organised this himself with the Sky Italia journalists, and the fact that, obviously with an Italian outlet, they're obviously going to put a bit of an Inter Milan spin on it. And it's not come across well. He's tried to apologise to the Inter fans for the way he left. I guess he didn't really get to say goodbye, but doing that, he's really upset a lot of Chelsea fans with those comments. And I initially thought, oh, maybe these have been slightly misconstrued, lost in translation. You watch the video, unfortunately, it's not. There's no getting away from it.
Yeah, it does make it a little bit more disappointing that Lukaku seems to have gone behind the club's back, purely with the intention of patching up his relationship with the Inter Milan fans. For what reason? Is he angling for a move back there? Kind of get that impression. Certainly, as he said, he wants to play there while he's still in his prime years. Well, he's in his late 20s now. So yeah. How long is he going to be at Chelsea for? Certainly not till the end of his career, like he claimed a few months ago. So to have gone not only without the club's knowledge, presumably, but with the sole intention of, appeasing Inter Milan fans without any thought for Chelsea or Chelsea supporters it's pretty disgraceful, to be honest, no matter the timing of it. It was obviously done after, I can't recall exactly if it was after the West Ham game or after the United draw.
I think they said he did it after the United draw, so about 3 weeks or so ago.
Yeah. So, I know our situation has worsened since then. But that's more how it was going to be received by the fans. I don't think it would have been well received regardless of when it was, because the comments were just that he didn't have a thought for Chelsea. throughout the entire interview, which is, when you make a £97 million investment into a player, he talks the talk, kisses the badge after scoring in his opening few appearances, and then basically says that he'd rather be at Inter Milan had he have his way.
Yeah.
You can understand that Chelsea fans aren't going to take it particularly well.
I mean, I think the worst part for me was I wasn't that annoyed about talking about the system, because I think Chelsea fans have said for a long time, we need to use Lukaku differently. So I didn't have an issue with the system part of it. The worst bit was obviously, about saying he wanted to still be at Inter going back, and then that he would still be there. And the fact he said, look, we'd be doing this interview in Milan if Inter had offered me a contract extension, I'd still be here. So
yeah,
it's all, and then, going on saying everyone dreams, to play for Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich and whatnot. And I was hoping to go there after Inter Milan. It doesn't reflect well on him. I mean, do you feel that, and it was interesting as well, I noticed that he kind of deactivated his Twitter account after that interview went out as well, which is perhaps quite telling, probably knew there was going to be quite a serious backlash. Do you feel that he needs to come out and say something now, whether through a statement, whether through his social media channels, as like to explain himself or offer an apology to the Chelsea fans to kind of clarify the situation?
Absolutely. But, I think Lukaku has proven that words are just words. And as the old saying go, actions speak louder. I think the only way that Lukaku is going to be able to repair his relationship with the Chelsea fans at this point is by winning us football matches. And, as you referred to the Didier Drogba situation back in the late 2000s when he said that he wanted to leave Chelsea. And to be honest with you, I think that was news to a lot of fans. To have had that dug up amidst all the Lukaku drama. And that's purely because when you think about Drogba, you just think about the trophies that he won Chelsea Football Club. Yeah. And ultimately, that's what we brought Lukaku in to do. If he was to post a well-rehearsed Instagram apology, I'm sure it would appease some supporters.
Yeah.
But I don't think it really means anything, does it? He said exactly what he meant and he wanted to say in that Sky Italia interview.
Yeah.
And I think, to be honest with you, the case is probably similar for a lot of players. A lot of players probably get moved on and they didn't particularly want to. They were happy where they were. Maybe they don't want to sign for Chelsea. Maybe they do want to play for Real Madrid. But you don't go and say it. Yeah. That's the difference. It's the almost nonchalance of the stuff that he came out with. And as you say, with him deactivating his Twitter, he must have expected that it wouldn't be well received. So it's just, I don't know, it seems very naive from him because he is stuck in this situation now, whether he likes it or not.
Well, I think it took Tuchel a little bit by surprise as well. Obviously, he was asked in a presser before the game on was it Friday morning? He was asked yesterday morning, and I think he said he seemed angry when I was watching that press conference. He kind of seemed like he was visibly angry, kind of simmering a little bit. He's saying he has no problems with Lukaku. Obviously, I don't think Lukaku. I mean, he said that they've had chats and stuff, but that was obviously before this interview got aired.
Yeah.
Yes, Lukaku's played better these last two games, but those comments would have taken Tuchel aback. He wouldn't be expecting that. He come out and say, no, he's got no problems with Lukaku. I don't know if Lukaku's got a problem with the manager or what the issue is, but it's certainly an unwanted headache going into a really busy January. We've got Liverpool 2 legs against Spurs. The FA Cup campaign kicks off. We've got Manchester City as well. Tottenham in the league as well. 3 games against Tottenham in a month. It's right at the worst time. You just don't need it, particularly coming from your star man. If it's a lesser player, you're not that arsed really. But coming from the star man's a problem. But football's a fickle game, isn't it? I mean, Jamie, do you think that if he bangs in the winner on Sunday, no one really cares about this anymore, or it's put to bed for a little bit?
I think it will take more than that.
Yeah.
I think this goes beyond one game. I think what we have to acknowledge here is that in Tuchel we have a very special manager, the kind of manager who has almost an aura comparable to Mourinho. He's the benchmark, isn't it? The first stint Mourinho, that's the benchmark. But I don't think there's a Chelsea fan out there that would take Lukaku's side over Tuchel. Maybe there is, but I don't think there's one that should. And for Lukaku to have gone behind Tuchel's back in this way is just as bad as how he's disrespected the club and the fans. What we would like to think is that Tuchel will outlive Lukaku at this football club.
Yeah.
His history tells us that probably won't be the case, unfortunately. but it's pretty clear who the fans are siding with, and that's Tuchel over Lukaku.
Yeah. 100%. I think we've got someone really special in Thomas Tuchel as well, but it's so important that the board give him the tools to go and do it, because I think he can do something like Pep's done at Manchester City with this Chelsea side. But Pep was given the backing. The Manchester City board are outstanding. Pep identifies what he wants. They get it. We don't see that at Chelsea. So often, we identify players we need and they don't come through the door. I mean, we needed a goal scorer last summer for sure. We get one in, but I actually thought the window was really poor last summer. We bought in a third choice keeper and Sal Niguez on loan.
Yeah,
I think the window was poor last summer. I don't think the recruitment was great. Obviously, I still think Lukaku will be a massive success at the club, but we need to back Tuchel, particularly in this window. But I mean, the last thing on Lukaku, how do you think he's going to be received by the fans on Sunday? Because do you think it's right that he's booed, or do you think they'll get behind him? Or it'll be a bit of a mix. I mean, I personally wouldn't boo him, but I'm sure there'll be sections of the fan base that will do that.
Yeah, I'm. We're under no illusions here. There are going to be Chelsea fans there who are going to boo Romelu Lukaku, just because, as you said, football's a fickle game. They were singing his name the other night, and they will be booing him, and probably won't be too happy to see him. But I would like to think that the majority of the Stamford Bridge crowd will acknowledge that their job, their priority is to get behind the team, not let their feelings known to one player who, has already made this game a complete side story as it is. The priority ought to be to support the team. If you want to tell Lukaku how you feel, do it. Get it out of the way before the game. When the lineups are rolled out, if Lukaku's included, which we assume he will, if you want to boo then. As soon as the whistle blows, as soon as the players are out on that pitch, need to get behind them.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. We've seen Jorginho booed by the fans in the past. He won them over. I think the biggest thing for Lukaku now, having given that basic car crash interview, essentially, is that he goes out on the pitch now and he scores the goals and wins us football matches and wins us trophies. That, as you said earlier, I think that's the only way he's gonna win us back is by doing that. I still stand with him to an extent that I'm not going to boo him. I still want him to do well. I don't want him out the club. I mean, we see Twitter's not the best place to look after things like this when you've got people saying, we should sell him, get rid of him. We're not going to sell him. We're not going to sell him. At the end of the day, as you touched on, chances are that if it's down to a simple keep Lukaku or keep Tuchel, you've invested £100 million. The manager's going. We've seen it time and time before. Yeah. That's the unfortunate thing. So we don't want a situation to, a relationship to dissolve so much between Lukaku and Tuchel that it ends up with the manager going. We don't want to see that again. But yeah, Lukaku's just got to do his talking on the pitch now, and that's maybe keep a bit of a low profile for a little bit. But I mean, I guess moving on to the game, Jamie, home form. It's been poor recently. We take on Liverpool at Stamford Bridge again. 4 draws in our last 5 home games, and the only win was a last-minute penalty against Leeds anyway. I know we've had COVID issues and injury issues, but I think we've done more than enough to win the majority of those games. And obviously, last time out, the Brighton one was really disappointing. What do you put the recent poor home form down to? I mean, I know it's easy to say injuries and stuff. I know we've not been clinical in front of goal. It's been an issue for a long time. But why do you feel that we can't see games out when we were doing that at the start of the season?
Well, I don't think there's one particular factor here which is causing us to drop points, and I don't think there's a silver bullet solution. In truth, I don't think some of the performances where we've dropped points have actually been all that bad.
Yeah.
Burnley was a case of not killing them off and allowing them to stay in the game. Brighton was a poor performance. Yeah. Manchester United, I felt like we dominated the game. And to be honest, if you go through all of those games, bar the Brighton one, we won pretty comfortably on XG, which obviously it's not a complete reflection of how the game went. But is it bad luck? To an extent, yes. Are we ravaged by injuries and COVID issues? Do we have players playing half fit? Jorginho with injections and Kovacic, Kante, Lukaku coming back half fit. Hudson-Odoi having to play all those minutes away at Villa when Tuchel said himself he shouldn't have seeded out the game. I think that's not just specifically a home issue. Those are issues entirely. But we've had very strong home runs, home records in the past under previous managements, and that's provided the foundation for our success. Again, if we draw in the Mourinho's incredible Chelsea home record, that's why he won 2 Premier League titles with Chelsea. And then the fact that we've been dropping points at home over the past month, 2 months, that's why Chelsea won't win the Premier League title this year. That's the case. The Etihad, I know Man City's away form has been equally exemplary as their home form is. Perhaps their home form has been a little bit more shaky, but the Etihad is the place. You see it on the fixture calendar. You don't want to go there. Anfield as well. Yeah. Liverpool, again, were weak at Anfield last year. That was a bit of a freak run. But in Liverpool's title-winning season, and even this season, Liverpool have been very strong at home. And I don't think you could name a single Premier League title winner throughout history that hasn't made their home ground a fortress. Why we haven't been able to do that, as I said, a number of contributing factors. But of course, it needs to improve if we want to have serious title ambitions for next year.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's so frustrating. You see Man City clear at the top of the table. I mean, a little bit disheartening when Arsenal blew it basically today. An implosion earlier on.
But not surprising.
No, not surprising at all. Their heads were gone. And we couldn't rely on them. But it's a little bit deflating because you think, City are going to drop a couple of points. And then even if we were to win, I think we would have gone 5 points behind them. And then you're thinking, well, we've got a game against them. We're kind of back in it now. And then you're sort of almost now this game becomes, well, if we don't win tomorrow, we're almost in a battle for the top 4, essentially, which is a shame. But the home form is so key. And we've got to start picking points up there again because frustration, the amount of points we've dropped there just in the last 5 games, 8 points. Even if we just turned a couple of those wins into draws like the Burnley or the Everton games, which we absolutely dominated but couldn't put the ball in the net, we'd be 4 points closer. It is fine. It is fine margins, obviously, in the Premier League. But, I mean, moving on to tomorrow's challenge, what do you think we've got to do well to beat Liverpool tomorrow? Because, we're going to have to cope with the likes of Salah, Mane, Jota or Firmino, or probably all of them at some point. We've not been that solid defensively recently in terms of amount of clean sheets. No. How difficult is it going to be to keep those players quiet? Because this Liverpool side is fantastic. And once they get going, it can be a big problem. You can let in a few goals pretty quickly.
Well, I think that's the key point. When we drew against Liverpool at Anfield with 10 men earlier in the season, we did so because our defence was impenetrable. Liverpool became disheartened towards the end of the game because they were relying on pop shots from the edge of the penalty area because it was just impossible to get behind us. Granted, we were playing a pretty low block because we were playing with 10 men and the point was a good result. But during that period, we had one of the best defensive records in Europe. It seems to have virtually overnight, our kind of defensive invincibility has just vanished and we've become pretty vulnerable back there. How can we prevent that Liverpool team from scoring? I think if we're being honest, we probably can't. We can't rely on keeping a clean sheet with the injuries we have in the defensive third against one of the most potent attacking lines in the business. I think it goes without saying that we're going to need to score tomorrow. And if we want to win, we might have to score a few of them. And actually, I think that's where we could have a bit of joy because for all of Liverpool's attacking strength, they are also a little bit vulnerable defensively. We saw it multiple occasions this season. The one that springs to mind is away at West Ham, where we also lost, to be fair. But it seemed to be every time the ball turned over, Liverpool were at 6s and 7s. Their defensive line is so unbelievably high that all it takes is a good ball in behind and a well-timed run. And you seem to be one-on-one with Alisson. Kind of against Leicester as well. Last time out, they were dominating the ball for large portions of the game. They were creating chances for themselves. But when the ball turned over, it seemed like Leicester were only 1 or 2 passes away from creating a genuinely, good attacking possibility. So I think we are just going to have to rely on the counter attack because I don't see us dominating possession in this game, particularly with our injury, fitness, COVID issues, the whole bunch of them. Not to forget that Liverpool have some of their own. But it would be the kind of game that Timo Werner would be absolutely ideal, to be honest with you. But I think we just have to be solid as we can defensively and efficient as we can offensively, which applies to any game, but this more than most, because against a team like Liverpool, the fine margins count.
And I think, I don't think we're going to get that many chances tomorrow. Liverpool can be got out. We've seen the 2 games you referenced there. Another one I'll reference was 2-0 up at home against Brighton, and they let 2 in also. So you can get at them defensively for sure. But it's going to be a case of we're not going to get many chances. We need to take those chances. And we've seen in the last few games, particularly the home games, we are not clinical in front of goal at all. We waste chance after chance after chance. Why do you feel that none of our forward players, perhaps barring Lukaku, can actually put the ball in the net or are any good at finishing? It's not just a problem this season. It's been a problem under Frank Lampard. It's been a problem under Sarri. It's been a problem for a long time. We don't seem to have someone or players across the front line that can all contribute in. You're not going to get the likes of, Pulisic, Ziyech, Havertz, etc., scoring as many goals as the likes of Salah and Mane score, or when you see Riyad Mahrez popping up with a lot of goals, Sterling, etc. We don't seem to have wide players that can put the ball in the net. I mean,
no.
Do you think that's a big? Do you think that's a big problem and slightly holding us back?
I absolutely. I think if you look at our attacking options on the flanks, it's much of a muchness. We have players that are very good at carrying the ball, very good at delivering the ball into the penalty area. When it actually comes putting the ball in the back of the net, that's where they seem to fall short. And I don't know if that's just, poor recruitment, and we've just signed players with similar characteristics, which aren't going to find the back of the net on a regular basis for us. But Kai Havertz, he was on a good purple patch of goal scoring run at Bayer Leverkusen before we signed him. It's probably one of the reasons we paid that amount of money to sign him. Christian Pulisic has proven that he can score on a semi-consistent basis. I know people like to laugh and joke about his lockdown form. He definitely seemed to
restart. Yeah,
that's it. He absolutely loved the state of play when no one was allowed out their homes. But ever since, it seemed to his form has nosedived as well. I can't think of a specific solution for it, because us not being certified football geniuses, all that we think is, this player has scored X amount of goals at this club, let's bring him to Chelsea, he'll do the same. But as has been the case with, I could name 100 players in the Abramovich era, and Timo Werner sums it up. They just don't seem to be able to hit a barn door with a banjo in a Chelsea shirt.
Yeah, it's a big problem. You always feel like you're excited to be linked with these players, but then you remember, we haven't got a great record. Even I still think Lukaku's going to be a great success at this football club. I do believe that, but there's always something in the back of my mind when you look at it. Over the last 20, well, not quite 20 years, 15 years, you could argue that we've had 2 successful centre forwards, Drogba and Costa, and look who we've had: Shevchenko, Torres, Morata. I won't use Kesman, but Crespo. We've had so many footballers, top centre forwards, but hardly any of them seem to work out at Chelsea. So there's always a worry when attacking players come. I mean, you referenced Kai Havertz. For me, there's only so long that Champions League goal is gonna carry him personally, because he's not doing enough. And I feel that his best position is probably playing in that kind of number 9, false 9, because I don't think he's a wide forward. He's probably a number 10, but we don't play a number 10. So there's almost not really a position for him. And in that Champions League run, we sort of stumbled across Havertz at false 9. But obviously, when Lukaku's fit, he's always going to play at number 9.
Yeah.
And so you're almost thinking that Havertz hasn't really got a position. So
no.
That you look at those things and it's a problem. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't know if it's down to recruitment, but for whatever reason, most of these guys finishing is poor. I know, like with Hudson-Odoi, etc. Some of these guys are young. You're not going to be the finished article in your early 20s. Very few players are. There's obviously always a couple of exceptions, your Mbappe's, your Haalands and stuff. But generally speaking, you're not going to have all aspects of your game sorted. When you look at the likes of Salah, wasn't that great? Sterling, it took him a while to get going, to add goals to his game on a consistent basis. We do have players that will get there, but I almost feel that we need a bit more of a blend of finished articles to go with the exciting prospects we've got. Because at the moment, there's not really any finished articles, and it's just exciting prospects. Like Hakim Ziyech is a talented boy. We just don't see it very often at all.
Yeah.
Pulisic not delivered on the £63 million investment. I would argue that he's not delivered. Werner hasn't delivered. We need a combination of experience, finished articles to complement the likes of Hudson-Odoi and Pulisic. We don't want to be relying on these guys imagine like Liverpool, relying on Oxlade-Chamberlain, Minamino. I'm not saying those guys are worse than them, but do you know what I mean? We haven't. I don't think the makeup of the squad at the front end of the pitch is quite got the right balance.
Yeah, we know because history shows us, and Chelsea fans will concede, no matter how much we want Thomas Tuchel to stay here long term and succeed here, he needs success now in order to stay. It's all well and good having young players and building a project and working towards the future, but if you have to tear it up every 2 or 3 years and start from scratch because you're under new management, it's no good. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. And I think in January and certainly in the summer, we shouldn't be looking for players that could be something. We need to sign players like Lukaku who are something, that we can. Chelsea, there's no guarantees. We know that, but players that we can be confident that heading into next season, they're going to deliver for us on a regular basis. I think, you can say what you like about Lukaku, and you certainly don't have to like him, but there's not many question marks left around him at this point in his career.
No.
I think even if his goal scoring record, even prior to his injury at Chelsea, was getting a little bit, below his usual standards, I don't think you ever doubted that Lukaku would bounce back and there'd be a flurry of goals. So, without wanting to name names, when we get to next summer, I absolutely agree that should be the case. And certainly in the attacking areas, we should be looking at signing players that we can be very confident they're going to find the back of the net for us.
Yeah, 100%. And, last thing on this, it really irritates me, the point of view, obviously Chile's not going to be, we don't think he's probably going to play for Chelsea until back end of this year, probably 2023. We need to go and sign a first choice left wing back. And you get people saying, oh, yeah, but what about when Chilwell comes back? Well, we're not a charity case, we need to. You look at Manchester City. I always use this example: fullbacks. I know Cancelo plays left back quite a lot for them. Kyle Walker and Cancelo right back options. Two right backs that will probably get into every Premier League team at the moment. We've got Chilwell injured. We know Alonso's not good enough. We've got people saying, oh, we shouldn't go and buy a first choice left back. We should bring back Emerson, or we should go and get someone on loan. No, if we're serious, we need 2 top draw players in those positions.
Absolutely agree.
It pushes Chilwell on to do better. So it's really frustrating when you see Chelsea fans, oh, we shouldn't do that. Or we should promote someone. I know we should trust Cobham. Cobham's been fantastic, probably best academy in the world. But we need decent players in every position to push these guys on. That's why I was so annoyed we didn't sign Hakimi. We missed out on him. I think Tuchel wanted him. He also wanted Adama Traore as well. That would have been useful to have now with Reece James out. But just this attitude of, oh, we shouldn't go and sign someone because what happens when this person comes back and they haven't got their space anymore? It's honestly...
Absolutely. If we went and signed a left wing back, say, Hernandez, Guerrero, that kind of bracket of player, the ones that are going to be able to come in for this year, and what we the whole point of it is that we're signing an upgrade on Marcos Alonso. As much as we don't, Chelsea fans don't think that Marcos Alonso is all that. He's not a bad footballer when it comes down to it. If we are actually going to upgrade on Marcos Alonso, we need to shop in the high bracket. If Chilwell comes back and he's stuck behind that guy, whoever it may be, it's because he deserves to be the starting left wing back ahead of Ben Chilwell, and Chelsea are going to be better off for it. If Chilwell comes in and goes back in the starting 11, then we have a better deputy for him for when he gets injured or when he needs a rest. That's just how top clubs should think about it, and that's how we should operate.
100%. And at the end of the day, even if you were, say, second choice, if you've got 2, say we had Ben Chilwell and Theo Hernandez, dream scenario, you're still going to play a lot of games. Chelsea play 60, 70 games a season. Players are going to get injured. These guys are going to play a lot of football, whether you're number 1 or second choice or whatever. So we need to be bringing competition in for places. There's no point having an obvious inferior selection behind because when one gets injured, you end up in a situation like we're in now, and we've got a massive problem. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of, last thing on that. But yeah, recruitment definitely needs to improve. Before we go on to picking our lineup, Jamie, I just wanted to ask you, we spoke about it off air before we come on. How much of a difference do you think it's going to make that Jurgen Klopp is ruled out of the game tomorrow with COVID, along with 3 other first-team staff members? Not sure who they are. We obviously saw today Arsenal, no Arteta on the touchline, played in the first half some of the best football they've probably played all season, perhaps in a long time. Klopp's very, vocal, animated on the touchline. It will be a small miss, but we'd be naive to think that it's going to make a massive difference to how Liverpool play.
We would be, especially because, Klopp will still be in contact with his first team staff that are down there in the dugout, who will just be relaying his orders. Of course, Jurgen Klopp is the kind of manager who does have an aura, the kind of aura that the fans will feel, his players will feel, the opposing players will feel. And it would have been, intriguing to see him and Tuchel down in the dugout at Stamford Bridge. But we certainly can't rely on Liverpool being off the pace because their manager's at home talking through an earpiece rather than in the dugout barking out instructions. I don't see it making any great difference. As you said, with Arteta at the Arsenal game, yes, they played some fantastic football in the first half. Was their second half capitulation as a result of the absence of their manager? You don't know. Maybe it's just that's just classic Arsenal, isn't it? Yeah. But I wouldn't see Klopp's absence having any significant impact on how this game plays out. Not for me, anyway.
No, it's not like Liverpool are going to suddenly forget how to play football because Klopp.
Certainly hope they do.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would be great. It would do us a massive favour, but yeah, I think it's highly unlikely that's going to happen. Let me just quickly bring this. Also, that we probably need to have a transfer window where we just buy players and then we can sell. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, you can look at it like that. Just bring some top quality players in, and then just get rid of the dross, I suppose. That's kind of left over. I don't think we need players like Ross Barkley. I don't think Southgate is good enough for Chelsea, but we need to get rid of a lot of players off the books. And I still think we have got a very good squad, but I think the balance of it and the lack of depth in certain areas has been massively exposed. But hopefully. Big transfer window in January. If we can get in a left wing back is a must. I also think a right wing back is probably a must as well. But whether we're going to get both of those, we'll have to see. But then the summer is massive. We're just going to move on to picking our 11 now to round out the old preview. So I'll just bring up the lineup on the screen. Jamie, starting in goal. Pretty obvious, isn't it? Or it is going to be Edouard Mendy.
While we can still have him in there, we absolutely have to.
His last game, isn't it, before he goes off to the African Cup of Nations? How big a blow do you think that is? Obviously, Kepa has kind of become rejuvenated under Thomas Tuchel and seems to be performing pretty well every time he's called upon. Do you think this is as big a blow? It's not as big a blow, as it perhaps might have been a few months ago.
I don't see it being as big of a blow as I initially thought it would have. And that's for 2 reasons. Not just because Kepa has been performing as well as he ever has in a Chelsea shirt when he's had his opportunity, but I don't think Mendy has been at his absolute best since that West Ham game. I do feel like there's been a little bit of a dip in confidence. When he gets pressed now, he does seem to be a little bit fearful, and he's ended up being a little bit wasteful in possession. Of course, he's an unbelievable shot stopper, but Kepa is fantastic with his feet. It's one of the reasons that we signed him with Maurizio Sarri at the helm, because he is one of the best ball-playing goalkeepers in the game. So as much as Mendy, in my opinion, has been the best goalkeeper on the planet in what is now the previous calendar year, Happy New Year, I don't have a problem with Kepa coming in and deputising.
No, definitely not. And I think one thing that Mendy does need to improve on, apart from his penalty saving, I think his distribution has been a bit shaky. So if he can improve on that, then look, he's a top goalkeeper. But yeah, for sure, Kepa coming in is not as big a blow as we once might have feared. Moving on to the back 3 now. I think Thiago Silva is back in training. You'd imagine that he'd be fit to play, so he'd slot straight back into the heart of the defence. And
I think he's so important to me.
Yeah,
he has to be fit to play. He's arguably one of the best signings that this club has made under Roman Abramovich, which seems silly to say so soon into his time here. If we signed him in his mid to late 20s, I can only imagine the amount of trophies that we would have won.
If we had him and John Terry as a partnership, it would have just been unbelievable. But I mean, what a signing he's been, and just like, his experience and the defense when he doesn't play does look shaky. I know we've lost games and let in goals when he's played, of course, but hasn't quite got that same safe feel around the back three when he doesn't play. Obviously, Christensen picked up a back injury. Tuchel didn't give much of an update on that. He just said it was the same back injury. It was just kind of re-aggravated it. Obviously, we'd expect Rudiger to play. And I'm kind of waiting any day now for his move somewhere else to be announced. I mean, I'd be surprised if there was a U-turn at this point and he did sign a new contract. We can always hope. The third slot then is, I suppose it's a little bit up for discussion. Trevor Chalobah or Azpilicueta. We've seen Azpilicueta play quite a lot. I would prefer Chalobah to stay there, but there could be a case for Azpilicueta playing ahead of him, possibly, couldn't there? But I mean, I personally would go with Chalobah. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think for me it depends whether Tuchel wants to play Azpilicueta as a wing back, or he'd rather play Hudson-Odoi in that role. But in my opinion, it's got to be Chalobah. He's certainly earned the right to start in these kind of games. Absolutely phenomenal. What an addition to the squad without having paid a penny.
Yeah, and the ironic thing is that if that Jules Koundé deal had kind of got across the line in the summer, maybe we wouldn't have even seen Chalobah in a Chelsea shirt this season.
No, and to be honest, Chalobah, he benefited from the staggered return of players from international tournaments over the summer. He took his opportunity and he took it fantastically well. And as you say, he certainly benefited from Koundé not coming. And Koundé may still come and replace Rudiger, but I see Trevor Chalobah being a key player in that Chelsea defence for many years to come.
Mainstay at the moment. This is where it gets a bit difficult now. No Reece James. For me, the fact that it's going to be up against Salah or Mane, which is going to be a big problem. I mean, we've basically got three choices here. We've got Azpilicueta, we've got Pulisic or Hudson-Odoi. For me, I probably want the best defensive player to play at right wing back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whether we have to sacrifice a little bit going forward to stay solid at the back, I'm probably quite happy to have that as a trade-off. But I just feel that Hudson-Odoi or Pulisic up against Salah one-on-one defensively is just a disaster waiting to happen. So I would play Azpilicueta there. I know we perhaps lose a little bit going forward, but his experience and his defensive know-how, I think, is going to be far more important than his perhaps slight lack of legs going forward. I wouldn't like to see Pulisic or Hudson-Odoi play there tomorrow.
Absolutely, 100% agree. It has to be Azpilicueta for me. Of course, we want to get at Liverpool and we want to hurt Liverpool and we need to score goals to win this game. But we're playing against, as I said, one of the finest attacks in the world. I think you play your best defenders, which unfortunately brings us onto left wing back, right? Which picks itself.
Well, it's going to have to be Marcus. It's going to have to be Marcus Alonso. I mean, it's not going to be something weird like a Sal Niguez experiment there.
No, not in a game like this.
I mean, Alonso, I guess it picks himself, and hopefully he can have a half decent game. But
I'll tell you what, I made the probably naive decision to bring Alonso into my FPL.
Mate,
Premier League team. Purely for the reason that it's so Marcus Alonso to absolutely stink the place out for weeks and come up with a big game performance, a big goal that wins the game. I mean, there's other left backs, left wing backs I'd rather see in that role than Marcus Alonso.
If that doesn't scream Alonso worldy game tomorrow, then I don't know.
It does. It absolutely does, doesn't it?
I don't know what does. Mate, moving on to the midfield too. It's great to have a few more options here again. Now we've got obviously
definitely.
Loftus-Cheek. Not sure if he's back from COVID/injury. If he is back, I doubt he'll start. He'll probably be on the bench. N'Golo Kante is definitely going to play. I don't think there's much to say about him. He's so important to how we play in the midfield, and the guy's added a bit to his game, particularly going forwards. Now he seems to be looks a bit more comfortable going forwards.
He's become a more accomplished attacking player. Yeah, absolutely.
And defensively, he speaks for himself, doesn't he? So the amount of ground he covers, he's so important. All those interceptions, the way he breaks the play up, he's going to be vital.
We threw the Brighton game away through that Danny Welbeck header. But when Kante came on the pitch, it was an absolutely different Chelsea team.
Unbelievable.
we were in trouble. We were in big trouble before he came on, and he just seemed to steady the ship. But yeah, as a fantastic world class midfielder.
And who would you put alongside him? Because this is quite a difficult one. I mean, Jorginho's played most games when he's been fit. Obviously, he's been battling through the pain a bit recently. He had a shocker against Brighton. It happens. Kovacic still coming back. He wasn't much better, but he was a bit better. Who would you go with tomorrow to complement Kante? Because I'm not sure who complements Kante better out of Jorginho and Kovacic. I mean, for this game, who would you go with?
Kovacic, for two reasons. First reason being that I think we've run Jorginho into the ground recently. I think Chelsea fans have been very quick to criticise Jorginho, but at the same time, he's been playing through the pain and he's been playing through necessity, not necessarily because Tuchel would have picked him in this condition. But I don't think we've seen the best Jorginho in recent weeks. The second reason is I can see us playing pretty deep tomorrow, just because Liverpool will probably dominate possession and our defensive line will be dug in at times. Now, to progress up the pitch from that, there's essentially two ways you can do it. You can pass your way out, whether that be short, quick passing to make your way up the field, or a long ball down the channels to one of the wingers who's a striker, or you can carry the ball. And I think there's scarcely a central midfielder in the game who can carry the ball as well as Mateo Kovacic when he's on form. I think he's the obvious pick for me ahead of Jorginho. But I do think Chelsea fans need to stop criticising Jorginho.
100%. He's more than proven. He's more than proven. You know, he got third place in the Ballon d'Or. This year, going a fantastic football player. But I agree. I do think that Kovacic should get the nod in this one. And if things are going well, Jorginho is a great player to bring on just to control the game in the middle of the park there. So it's not a bad option to have. But yeah, I think we probably should use Kovacic, who's likely to be a bit fresher, because we've had to overuse Jorginho essentially, which is never good.
But as you said, it's good to have options in that area, and we will have options off the bench if need be.
Moving to the front three, let's start on the right hand side. I mean, they might play slightly differently, but I guess it's going to be Mason Mount again. I think he's got 12 goal contributions this season, the most he's had in his career, I believe. He is Mr. Chelsea. Attitude is fantastic. Always puts a shift in, presses from the front, and has added a few more goals to his game, which I felt probably had been missing. And because he's obviously young as well, that will come. I don't think we're going to see Hakim Ziyech or Christian Pulisic there. No. So I think Mason Mount is probably a shoo-in.
I think there was a point earlier in the season, right at the start, where you started seeing stats floating around like Mason Mount hadn't scored in 20 odd games. And he just seems to he's gone up another level in recent weeks. I mean, it all started from the hat trick against Norwich, and since then he's just been very consistent. So I get, irrespective of his direct goal contributions, I think he's one of the first names on the team sheet for his work ethic, his pressing, etc. But a goal scoring and assisting Mason Mount is just in your attack, regardless of who's available or not.
I agree, Mason Mount, 100%. This is where it gets interesting now. Timo Werner back in training after COVID. I doubt, we touched on it earlier, it'd probably be quite a good game to play him, but it'd be a massive game to start him, given that he's been out with COVID, not trained much, maybe one or two sessions. Tuchel said he was suffering particularly badly with it. I think it's a big ask to go with Timo Werner there. I'm not sure Christian Pulisic will play there either. I don't know if Callum Hudson-Odoi is going to play there either. So it's quite difficult to decide. What would you go with on that left-hand side? Because I know Lukaku and Hudson-Odoi had a decent link-up in the Villa game. Obviously, Hudson-Odoi wasn't so good against Brighton. I mean, would you go with him again? Or what? I mean, this is a tricky position to sort out.
It's a difficult one. I think we need to be careful with Hudson-Odoi because he's playing a lot of football when he's not necessarily in his best form or in his best condition, and we don't want his head to drop. We saw that when he was through on goal against Brighton, that attempted pass across to Mason Mount, which was blocked with a hand. Regardless, Hudson-Odoi in his younger years, he drives towards goal and he takes a shot at goal.
100%, yeah.
I just feel like he's lacking a bit of confidence, and continually starting him is good for a number of reasons, but not so good for others. So I would rather not play him in this game. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean we have to go 5-3-2 and play Havertz alongside Lukaku and bring Mount back a bit? I'm not sure. Again, it would be a little bit of a gamble. I don't think there's an obvious pick for this one.
No, there's not.
And to be honest, I think it probably will be Hudson-Odoi, purely through lack of alternatives. But
yeah,
it is in the same breath, we do have alternatives. It's just whether they're viable. It's whether you'd want to start Pulisic.
I've just got a feeling Kai Havertz might play in this game. Whether it's on this left-hand side or not, whether it changes slightly to a 2 with Mount in behind or whatever. But I've just got a feeling Havertz might play. I think we don't want to burn Hudson-Odoi out too much. Having just come back from COVID and stuff, played probably more minutes than he should have done. Pulisic, not in great form. Did a job at right wing back. He looked knackered towards the end of that Brighton game. Obviously, he can probably recover and stuff. But I mean, I don't know. I'd be tempted to go with Kai Havertz on this left hand side. I mean, it could be anyone really. I'm pretty sure it won't be Hakim Ziyech, but I'd probably go Kai Havertz. I mean, out of all the positions we've picked so far, I'd probably say that's the one that's most likely to potentially be wrong. But I just got a feeling that it's a kind of a Kai Havertz kind of game.
It is, and assuming we're putting Lukaku through the middle, that's the front three that we were rolling with earlier in the season, and certainly know that's what we started with at the Emirates when we played away. Yeah, and to be honest, I thought that was going to be the front three that we'd see throughout the season. Yeah. If Havertz is in good enough condition to start, then I don't see why he shouldn't. Yeah, no,
I agree. What's this here? Weird shout. I'd like to see the 3 controversies against Liverpool. It won't happen. Lukaku up front, Werner on the left, and Havertz on the right. Do you know what? It's not. I mean, I don't think it will happen, but it's not impossible, and it's not like a ridiculous suggestion.
No, not at all.
But yeah, I mean, lastly on Lukaku, Tuchel said they deal with it behind closed doors and whatnot. I'd be very surprised if Lukaku didn't lead the line. I think we'd be spiting ourselves if we didn't play him, because at the end of the day, no one else is really going to score goals in this team other than him. And if we don't play him, even if he's done a stupid interview, if we don't play him, we're rapidly decreasing our chances of winning this game. So for me, he has to play. He's been looking a lot better last couple of games, looks fit, he's running channels, he's looking like he's being used in a more multifaceted way, which he wasn't at the start of the season. So yeah, I think that Lukaku will play tomorrow. I'd be very shocked if he didn't. And it would also raise a lot more questions around the club as well, which you probably don't want at this time.
Yeah, I think what Tuchel is faced with is comparable to what Arteta has had with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. The difference being that Aubameyang has been subpar for some time. Ever since he signed that contract, he has not been the same player. So I don't think Arsenal have lost that much dropping Aubameyang and playing Lacazette through the middle. Yeah. As you said, if Chelsea leave out Romelu Lukaku from the attack, we are a significantly weaker team with significantly reduced chances of getting something out of this game. We've already touched on how, it's unlikely for us to have a plethora of chances in this game. So when we do get them, we need to take them. And as we said, we have a lot of players that can't be trusted to take their chances. Romelu Lukaku is one of them. Yeah. So irrespective of the interview or any other controversies, I think it would be only detrimental to Chelsea if we were to leave him out just to prove a point.
No, 100% agree. And just to wrap up, mate, score prediction for tomorrow. What are you thinking?
Well, I can't say Chelsea are going to lose, even if I figured we were. Yeah. So I'm going to go for a lovely, stinky, boring Chelsea 1-0 victory.
Oh, mate, we'd all take it.
We would. I think, I'd love to see us produce a counter-attacking masterclass comparable to under Antonio Conte at the Etihad when we beat them. That'd be great. I'd love to see it, but if I'm being honest with myself, perhaps our most likely avenue to a victory here is just to make it an absolutely terrible game of football, and hope that we nick one from a set piece or on the counter.
No, 100%, mate. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw on this one. I normally always predict us to win, but
it's difficult too at the minute.
It's quite hard. I don't want to just sit here and say Chelsea are going to win every game, but I do want us to win. I just feel this is going to be a draw, so I'm going to go with a 1-1. But yeah, that's just myself and Jamie's thoughts on the game, our lineup. As always, guys, let us know your thoughts in the chat. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you tuned in live, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate all the support, all the comments. If you're watching it back, hope you enjoy it. Let us know your thoughts also. Jamie, where's the best place for people to check out what you do? I've obviously linked your Twitter across the bottom there and in the video description. That's kind of the best place for everyone to go.
Yep, I save all my best opinions for Twitter. No, that is probably the place to be, the place to interact. I'm always, to be honest, looking to connect with new football fans, especially Chelsea fans. So give me a follow.
Yeah, guys, make sure you do that. Thank you so much, Jamie, for your time. Really appreciate it. Guys, make sure you smash like on this video. Please do subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate all of your support. It's a new year. Let's get some more subscribers on the board. So just click that subscribe button. It will mean a lot to me and it massively helps me out. So please do that. Jamie, once again, thank you so much. Guys, up the Chelsea, and catch you in the match review tomorrow. Cheers.